Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Saira Mujtaba, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. India and Australia agreed to bolster the comprehensive strategic partnership at the first India-Australia Annual Summit in New Delhi. India-US holds 5th commercial dialogue in New Delhi. Acknowledged bilateral goods and services trade almost doubled since 2014. Xi Jinping elected China's president for unprecedented third term. Iran and Saudi Arabia agreed to resume diplomatic ties. 7 killed in shooting at Hamburg in Germany. And in cricket, India were 36 for no loss against Australia in the first innings at the end of the second day of the fourth and final test of Border Gavaskar Trophy in Ahmedabad. And now the news in detail. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese shared their commitment towards further deepening of comprehensive strategic partnership during a delegation-level bilateral talk in New Delhi on Friday. During the first India-Australia Annual Summit, both the countries exchanged MOU for cooperation in sports and audio-visual co-production. The Indian-Australian side also exchanged terms of reference for India-Australia Solar Task Force, Letter of Intent between Atal Innovation Mission and Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation. Addressing the joint press conference after the meeting, Prime Minister Modi said, security cooperation is an important pillar of comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries.
आज हमने आपसी सहयोग के विभिन्न पहलुओं पर विस्तार से चर्चा की। सुरक्षा सहयोग हमारी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप का एक महत्वपूर्ण स्तंभ है। आज हमारे बीच इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र में मैरीटाइम सिक्योरिटी और आपसी रक्षा और सुरक्षा सहयोग बढ़ाने पर विस्तार से चर्चा हुई। रक्षा के क्षेत्र में हमने पिछले कुछ सालों में उल्लेखनीय एग्रीमेंट्स किए हैं, जिनमें एक दूसरे की सेनाओं के लिए लॉजिस्टिक्स सपोर्ट भी शामिल है।
Prime Minister Modi said India and Australia are both members of the Quad and he will travel to Australia for the Quad Leaders Summit in May this year. The Prime Minister said that India and Australia also talked about developing credible and robust global supply chains. Terming renewable energy a key priority area for cooperation, Mr. Modi said both the countries are working together in the field of clean hydrogen and solar. Highlighting the benefits of economic cooperation and trade agreement, Mr. Modi said it has opened up new opportunities in trade and investment between the two countries.
पिछले साल लागू हुए ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट एकता से दोनों देशों के बीच ट्रेड और इन्वेस्टमेंट के बेहतर अवसर खुले हैं और हमारी टीमें कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इकोनॉमिक कोऑपरेशन एग्रीमेंट पर भी काम कर रही हैं। फ्रेंड्स, पीपल टू पीपल संबंध भारत ऑस्ट्रेलिया मित्रता का एक प्रमुख आधार है। हमने एजुकेशनल क्वालिफिकेशंस की परस्पर मान्यता के लिए एक मैकेनिज्म पर हस्ताक्षर किए हैं, जो हमारे छात्र समुदाय के लिए उपयोगी होंगे।
Speaking on the occasion, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said the relationship with India is multifaceted. He said high-level contact between the two countries has further strengthened cooperation across many sectors.
The relationship with India is multifaceted. The frequent high-level contact between Australia and India has further strengthened cooperation across a range of areas, including trade and investment, climate and energy, defence and security, and between the people of our two countries.
Early on Friday, the Australian Prime Minister was accorded the Guard of Honour at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Prime Minister Modi received him for the ceremonial welcome. Mr. Albanese also paid floral tributes to Mahatma Gandhi at Rajghat. India's Foreign Secretary Vinay Mohan Kwatra said that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese have expressed satisfaction on the progress made in various sectors between India and Australia.
Both leaders assessed and noted with great satisfaction the strong all-round progress across the range of areas including science and technology, strategic and security domain, renewable energy, partnership in critical minerals, trade and economic engagement, full set of comprehensive progress that the two countries have achieved.
Briefing media in New Delhi on Friday, Mr. Quadra said both the leaders also appreciated the considerable progress made in defence and security cooperation. He said Prime Minister Modi encouraged his Australian counterpart to avail the opportunities available in India in the defence manufacturing sector.
In this context, Prime Minister Modi encouraged the Honourable Prime Minister of Australia to avail of the full range of opportunities that are available in India deriving out of Make in India initiatives and Atmanirbhar Bharat program for defence manufacturing.
Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, called on President Draupadi Murmu at Rashtrapati Bhavan on Friday. Welcoming Prime Minister Albanese and his delegation, the President said that the comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries has given a boost to the bilateral engagements. She expressed confidence that this visit would instill greater momentum in India-Australia ties. The President said that the Indian community in Australia is known for being hard-working and peace-loving, with entrepreneurial skills. She expressed confidence that the Australian government would take all necessary steps to provide a safe, secure and positive environment to the Indian community in Australia. And now in today's Hotspot section, we bring you news commentary on Australian Prime Minister's visit to India.
India and Australia have several commonalities which serve as a foundation for closer cooperation and multifaceted interaction on lines similar to what India has developed with other Western countries. Both are strong, vibrant, secular and multicultural democracies. They both have a free press and an independent judicial system. Cricket and now the large numbers of Indian students in Australia for education are significant elements in awareness at the popular level. The Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is on a state visit from the 8th of March to the 11th of March. He arrived in Ahmedabad on Wednesday, the day we celebrated Holi, and participated in the celebrations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Australian counterpart Anthony Albanese witnessed the fourth cricket test match of the Border Gavaskar Cricket Trophy at Narendra Modi Cricket Stadium in Ahmedabad on the 9th of March. The Australian Prime Minister will head to Mumbai to engage with the business community. From there, he will go to New Delhi for bilateral talks with Prime Minister Modi. India's relations with Australia reached a new high with the first ever visit of the President of India, Ramnath Kovind, to Australia on 21st to 24th November 2018. The two-way prime ministerial visits since 2014 gave significant momentum to the bilateral relationship. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi and Mr. Scott Morrison, the former Prime Minister of Australia, held India-Australia Leaders Virtual Summit on the 4th of June 2020, where the bilateral strategic partnership concluded in 2009 was elevated to Comprehensive Strategic Partnership CSP. Apart from a joint statement on CSP, the summit also delivered 8 landmark memoranda of understanding in various fields. A second India-Australia Virtual Summit was held on the 21st of March 2022. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Mr. Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister of Australia, on the sidelines of the Quad Leaders Summit on the 24th of May 2022. They held a bilateral meeting on the 16th of November 2022 on the sidelines of the G20 Summit in Bali, Indonesia. Former Foreign Minister Ms. Marise Payne and Minister for Defence Peter Dutton met the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh on the 11th of September 2021 in New Delhi for the first India-Australia 2+2 ministerial dialogue. A joint statement was issued at the conclusion of the dialogue. A Foreign Ministers Framework Dialogue, the central mechanism for advancing the bilateral agenda, is held annually, alternatively in India and Australia. During the last 4 years, there have been a number of high-level delegations visits at the ministerial level. India and Australia also cooperate in various multilateral fora. Australia supports India's candidature in an expanded UN Security Council. Both India and Australia are members of the Commonwealth, Indian Ocean Rim Association IORA, ASEAN Regional Forum, Asia Pacific Partnership on Climate and Clean Development, International Solar Alliance, Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, and have participated in the East Asia Summits. Both countries have also been cooperating as members of the 5 interested parties in the WTO context. Australia supports India's membership in the APEC. In 2008, Australia became an observer in SAARC. The India-Australia economic relationship has grown significantly in recent years. India's growing economic profile and commercial relevance to the Australian economy is recognized both at the federal and state level in Australia. As part of its efforts to develop a strong economic relationship with India, the Australian government commissioned the India Economic Strategy to 2035 to define a pathway for Australia to unlock opportunities offered by Indian economic growth. India is the 9th largest trading partner of Australia. In 2021, bilateral trade in goods and services with India was $27.5 billion, with exports of goods and services worth $10.5 billion and imports of goods and services worth $17 billion. The India-Australia CEO Forum was established in 2011 and revitalized in November 2014. The forum includes heads of Indian and Australian business to engage in a broad range of sectors, including energy and resources, agribusiness, financial sector, telecommunications, IT, education, and pharmaceuticals. The Australian Parliament passed the Civil Nuclear Transfer to India Bill 2016 on the 1st of December 2016, which allows that uranium mining companies in Australia to fulfill contracts to supply Australian uranium to India for civil use. The Civil Nuclear Cooperation Agreement came into force on the 13th of November 2015. During Prime Minister Modi's visit to Australia in November 2014, both sides decided to extend defence cooperation to cover research, development and industry engagement, and agreed to hold regular meetings at the level of the Defence Minister, conduct regular maritime exercises and convene regular service-to-service talks. India-Australia Science and Technology Cooperation was formalized through an intergovernmental agreement between the Department of Science and Technology and Department of Industry Australia. Australia-India Strategic Research Fund supports collaboration between scientists in India and Australia on cutting-edge research. Piyush Goyal, then Minister of State for Coal, Power and New and Renewable Energy, accompanied by a business delegation, visited Australia during 8th to 11th February 2016 to participate in the India-Australia Energy Security Dialogue. The number of Indian students currently enrolled for studying in Australia is estimated at around 77,000. Under the new Colombo plan of the Australian government, Australian undergraduates have studied and completed internships in India. The Ministry of Ayush announced the setting up of the Ayurveda Academic Chair based at Western Sydney University's NICM Health Research Institute on the 22nd of November 2022. An MOU in the field of tourism was signed between the two countries during the visit of PM Modi to Australia in November 2014 and was renewed in February 2022. Confluence, the Festival of India in Australia involving multi-city performances, is held in Canberra, Melbourne and Sydney. 9 artifacts have been successfully repatriated to India in 2020 and 29 stolen artifacts in March 2022. India is one of the top sources of skilled immigrants to Australia. There is a constant flow of students and tourists from India. India is the second largest migrant group in Australia. The growing significance of the community is reflected in the large-scale celebration of Indian festivals in Australia.
In some more news, a delegation of the Supreme Court of Kenya, led by Chief Justice Martha Koome, EGH, called on President Draupadi Murmu in New Delhi on Friday. Welcoming the delegation at Rashtrapati Bhavan, the President said that Kenya and India share centuries-old friendly relations. She said India is proud to be a development partner of Kenya and is eager to maintain the tradition of high-level political engagement with the new government of Kenya. President Murmu said both the countries should also work together to further strengthen bilateral trade ties. She noted that Justice Koome is the first woman Chief Justice of the Kenyan Supreme Court. The President also commended her efforts for making justice accessible to all and to empower the women in Kenya. Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar has said India is a global example where technology has been used for making efficient services available to the people. He said technology enables accessibility and reduces out-of-pocket expenditure of citizens. Mr. Dhankar was addressing the second International Symposium on Health Technology Assessment 2023 in New Delhi on Friday. Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia was also present during the event. In his address, Mr. Mandavia said, India is playing a crucial role in healing the world by providing quality and affordable medicines. He said India has always been responsive to the global community and any research and innovation happening in the country is readily available to the world. The International Symposium was organized by the Department of Health Research, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in collaboration with the World Health Organization and Center for Global Development. The India-US Fifth Commercial Dialogue was held in New Delhi on Friday. During the meeting, Union Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal and US Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo acknowledged that bilateral goods and services trade has almost doubled since 2014, surpassing $191 billion as recorded in 2022. Both sides welcomed further steps to enhance their commercial collaboration and tap into market potential across multiple sectors and also enable an environment for investment by small and medium-sized industries and startups. Both sides announced the launch of a new working group on talent, innovation and inclusive growth under the commercial dialogue. This will further the cooperation on startups, SMEs, skill development and entrepreneurship, including in digital and emergent technologies. A memorandum of understanding on establishing semiconductor supply chain and innovation partnership under the framework of India-US Commercial Dialogue was signed between the two countries. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla arrived in Bahrain's capital Manama on Friday, leading an Indian parliamentary delegation to attend the 146th Assembly of the Inter-Parliamentary Union, IPU. Lok Sabha Speaker received a warm welcome from the Deputy Chairman and members of the Bahrain Parliament, Shura Jamal Fakhro. The 146th Assembly of the IPU will be held in Manama, Bahrain from the 11th of March to the 15th of March. On Saturday, the Indian delegation will participate in the Asia-Pacific Group meeting of the Inter-Parliamentary Union. Later, Mr. Birla will lead members of the Indian delegation at the opening ceremony to be held in the plenary hall under the patronage of the King of Bahrain. During his stay in Manama, the Indian parliamentary delegation will also attend the general debate of the 146th Assembly of the IPU on the 12th of March. Mr. Birla will address the Assembly on the topic, Promoting Peaceful Coexistence and Inclusive Societies, Fight Against Intolerance. This is All India Radio giving you the world news. Welcome back. Chinese leader Xi Jinping has formally secured an unprecedented third term as China's president as he embarked on a fresh 5-year tenure. Delegates to the 14th National People's Congress, NPC, also elected Zhao Leiji as the new chairman of the parliament. Han Zheng was elected as the new vice president of the country. Delegates at the NPC will approve China's new premier on Saturday, which is widely thought to be Xi's closest ally, Li Qiang. More from our Beijing correspondent.
In a largely ceremonial display on expected lines, nearly 3,000 members of China's rubber-stamped parliament, the National People's Congress, voted unanimously for Xi 69, who was the only candidate in fray. Xi, who leads the ruling Communist Party, was also reappointed head of the National Central Military Commission. He was already the head of an identical party body overseeing the Chinese People's Liberation Army, PLA. Experts said with Li Keqiang out of the scene and Xi's trusted ally Li Qiang to become the premier of the State Council, which is China's cabinet, Xi will enjoy unbridled powers. This may lead to further blurring of the fine line between the CCP and the government, as the ruling Communist Party of China is expected to significantly increase its direct control of the government. Under Chinese government system, party leaders already occupy top government roles. Critics say Xi has already purged his political adversaries from the party, the government and the military through his anti-corruption campaign in last 10 years. Even though the post of Chinese president is largely a ceremonial one, Xi consolidated his powers and control of the ruling Communist Party at the 20th National Congress of the CPC in October last year by securing the precedent-breaking third term as its powerful head and cherry-picked his loyalists as part of the topmost group of leadership known as the Politburo Standing Committee of the CPC to rule the country. Anshuman Mishra for World News, All India Radio, Beijing.
Mr. Jinping became the head of the ruling CPC and China's president in 2013. As he took over as the CPC head and Chinese president for the second time in 2018, he removed the term limit of 2 presidential terms by a constitutional amendment and paved the way for his rule for life. United Nations Resident Coordinator Sean Sharp has lauded India's G20 presidency for highlighting a number of Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs). He was addressing the joint valedictory session of the 57th Capacity Building Program of the Civil Servants of Bangladesh and Arunachal Pradesh in New Delhi. The UN Resident Coordinator said, in fact, India's G20 presidency has become SDG 20 presidency as India is raising a strong voice to close the financial gaps. Mr. Sharp pointed out that after a long gap, 4 emerging economies like Indonesia, India, Brazil and South Africa will be holding the G20 presidency in a consequent manner to raise the issues of developing countries and to become the voice of the global south. Mr. Sharp said that the UN also supports India's green transition as it has committed for net zero carbon by 2070. He said digital transformation, low carbon economic model and women-led governance with gender equality and women empowerment are some of the key highlights of India's high growth model. The Bangladesh-India Friendship Pipeline carrying fuel from India's Numaligarh refinery to Bangladesh Parvatipur depot will contribute effectively to energy security of Bangladesh. Bangladesh Energy Minister Nasrul Hamid said that it will be a milestone in providing fuel to the northern region of the country quickly, uninterruptedly and in a cost-effective manner. The 130-kilometer long pipeline has a capacity to supply 1 million metric tons per annum fuel from India to power plants in Bangladesh and to 16 districts of the northern region. Bangladesh Foreign Minister Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen announced that the pipeline will be jointly inaugurated by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the 18th of March via video conferencing. The groundbreaking ceremony for the project took place in 2018. The project was scheduled to be completed in June this year, but it will become operational ahead of time. The pipeline is built at an approximate cost of 346 crore rupees, financed under India's concessional line of credit LOC to Bangladesh. Iran and Saudi Arabia have agreed to re-establish diplomatic relations according to the joint trilateral statement issued by Saudi Arabia, Iran and China. Both the countries have agreed to reopen their embassies and missions within a period not exceeding 2 months. The agreement includes the affirmation of the respect for the sovereignty of states and non-interference in each other's internal affairs. They also agreed that the ministers of foreign affairs of both the countries shall meet to implement this, arrange for the return of their ambassadors. The delegations from the 2 countries held talks during the period from the 6th of March to 10th of March in Beijing. The 9th edition of World Art Dubai commenced at the Dubai World Trade Center on Thursday. The event will feature more than 4,000 artworks from over 300 renowned galleries and solo artists hailing from more than 60 countries. The artworks will include paintings, sculptures, photography, digital art and more. The event aims to make art accessible for collectors and enthusiasts who are looking for original and quality pieces under one roof. Traders in Pakistan's Mansehra and Shinkiari towns on Friday held a shutter-down strike in response to the prolonged and unscheduled power outages. Mansehra is a city in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province of Pakistan. Chairman of the Shinkiari Traders Association, Alamgir Shah, said that businesses are already suffering from record inflation and now the day-long load shedding is badly hitting traders. Mr. Shah said besides downing shutters, the traders would stage a protest rally as well. He further said that the Peshawar Electric Supply Company suspended electricity from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. every other hour. President of the association, Zuhaib Shah, said harsh economic conditions had rendered traders and shopkeepers unable to pay rent of their shops and business centers, so they couldn't afford to pay expenses for household goods and their children's education. The traders' central body met in Mansehra and demanded the government to do away with the prolonged and unscheduled load shedding. 7 people were killed and many others were injured in a shooting incident in the German city of Hamburg. Police say the perpetrator shot himself inside Jehovah's Witnesses Hall after officers forced their way into the building. The shooter was a 35-year-old man named Philip F. Thomas Radziwiłł, a Hamburg security official, said the shooter was not previously known to authorities and there was no previous case against him. Chancellor Olaf Scholz, a former Hamburg mayor, described the shooting as a brutal act of violence. Dramatic footage has now emerged that appears to show the gunman firing many rounds through a window of the hall. All those shot dead were German nationals. Germany has been shaken by a number of shootings in the last few years. In February 2020, a gunman shot dead 9 people in the western town of Hanau before killing himself and his mother. In October 2019, a gunman killed 2 people when he opened fire outside a synagogue in the eastern city of Halle. And now news from the world of business, a report.
Sensex dropped by 671 points or 1.21% to end at 59,135. Nifty lost by 177 points or 1% to settle at 17,413. Asian and European stocks fell after a sell-off in US bank shares. As far as Asian indices are concerned, Hong Kong's Hang Seng tumbled 3.1%. Singapore Straits Times Index declined 1.8%. Japan's Nikkei 225 slipped 1.7%. China Shanghai Composite shed 1.4%. And South Korea's Kospi fell 1%. European stocks were also down in intraday trade when reports last came in. Oil fall for a fourth session, heading for its biggest weekly loss in 5 weeks. The fall in oil prices is due to worries about the prospect of steep interest rate hikes in the US hitting fuel demand. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading at around $81.05 per barrel. Back home, the gold price at the multi-commodity exchange for April contracts was trading at around 55,490 rupees per 10 grams. Silver was trading around 62,070 rupees per kilogram for May contracts when reports last came in. In the foreign exchange market, the rupee today appreciated by 4 paise against the US dollar. The domestic unit closed at 82 rupees and 2 paise against the US currency. Arjun Chaudhary for World News, All India Radio.
On to sports now. In cricket, India were 36 for no loss against Australia in their first innings at the end of the second day of the fourth and final test of the Border Gavaskar Trophy in Ahmedabad. Earlier, the visitors scored 480. Ravichandran Ashwin scalped 6 wickets for the Indian side. On the first day of the play, the visitors scored 255 for a loss of 4 wickets. Opener Usman Khwaja scored Australia's first century with 180 runs, while Cameron Green hitting 114 runs on the second day. Earlier, Australia recovered from 2 losses to win the third test at Indore. India will try to win or draw this test match to win the series, while Australia will try to level the series 2-2 by winning this match. And now let's take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Guardian writes, Joe Biden plans to visit Belfast to mark Good Friday Agreement anniversary. The Washington Post reports, Iran and Saudi Arabia set to restore ties after peaching mediation. The Globe and Mail reports, Canadian economy added 22,000 jobs in February, unemployment rate steady at 5%. And the Financial Times writes, European bank stocks sell off sharply after steep falls in US. And now a quick look at the headlines once again. India and Australia agreed to bolster the comprehensive strategic partnership at the first India-Australia annual summit in New Delhi. India-US hold 5th commercial dialogue in New Delhi. Acknowledged bilateral goods and services trade almost doubled since 2014. Xi Jinping elected China's president for unprecedented third term. Iran and Saudi Arabia agreed to resume diplomatic ties. 7 killed in shooting at Hamburg in Germany. And in cricket, India was 36 for no loss against Australia in their first innings at the end of the second day of the fourth and final test of Border Gavaskar Trophy in Ahmedabad. And now before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan by artists from Japan.
Para
We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.